Hello everyone and welcome back to the Honeybee Stamps blog and YouTube channel. We are celebrating our 7th birthday with our Birthday Bliss release. Today is day 1 and I'm going to jump right into our brand new products with our vintage hive stamp and coordinating die set. So we have this wonderful vintage beehive. You can see it's on a little wooden base there and the woven hive is there. There's grass pieces to add on and florals. They look like wildflowers. Of course, there's some little bees and a little buzz of bees there, several bees buzzing around the hive, and there's also the sentiment hello. Now the coordinating die set is going to cut out the hive, the bees, the florals, the sentiments, everything that you see there in that stamp set. And I'm going to make a card with this set at the end of the video, so stick around for that. Next up is our babies set. So we have cute little chubby babies in the coordinating dies. Super cute little stamp and coordinating die set. And then we have our oh so cute queen bee stamp set. She is there wrapped up in a little flower in all her glory. There's some great sentiments in this one, from the desk of Happy Mother's Day to the Queen or Queen Bee. Kindness makes everything sweeter, from the a note to my heart. Long live thee and happy birthday. So lots of cute little fun sentiments to go with that queen bee. And of course there's a coordinating die set that's going to cut out the queen bee and all of those great sentiments. Next is the Sweet Honey Bees stamp and coordinating die set. This has 3 little adorable bees, one laying on top of a flower, one holding or flying with a flower, and then there's one standing with a flower there at the top. There's a whole line there of flowers, little wildflowers and greenery pieces. Lots of great sentiments in this one, like hello honeybee or sweet honeybee. Here's the coordinating die set, and you can see there's the 3 dies for those little honeybees. There's that long die for the row of flowers, and then all the dies for the sentiments as well. Now here's a card that I made during one of our live streams with all 3 of those sweet little honeybees, and I just love that. And you can see the little honeybee sentiment there in the corner. That is from that stamp set as well. Now these are our honeybee stitching dies. You can see there's 2 dies there that make up the body, one with the wings and then the front side of the bee. There's also the tail end of the bee there, and then a stripe and an eye. You can cut these out of felt and stitch these together to make a little plush bee. You can also cut these out of paper, stitch them together, and add those to your handmade cards. Next is our Bees A2 foil cover plate. This is a really cool foil plate. I just love these little bees. They're so beautiful when foiled. I tested this out both on black cardstock and on some white cardstock. So this black cardstock is just your typical card making cardstock. It does have a little bit of tooth to it, and so your foil is not going to be as smooth as it is on some specialty foiling papers, or like this hammer mill paper that I used here in white. You can see how beautiful and how perfect the foiling is on that. I just added a little bit of yellow into the little bees stripes with my colored pencils. And this is our Lazy Daisy A2 pierced cover plate. You can see the beautiful little lazy daisies on there. There's no cut line around the edge, so you can add this pattern to the flaps of your envelopes. You can extend that on to make a larger card. Here is that pattern on just a plain yellow cardstock. You can see how cute that would be in the background of your little critters and bees. Here I have run that through my die machine with white paper and added a little bit of colored pencils to shade in certain areas of those little lazy daisies. I think they're so cute and so fun for backgrounds. Okay, so for today I'm going to create a card using this vintage beehive stamp and die set. And what I have done is stamped the hive in that little base that's a connected stamp onto some craft cardstock with Gathered Twigs Distress Oxide ink. I also stamped it on a piece of masking paper, as you can see there, and just fussy cut right around the edges of that. And I'm going to do a 1-layer card by stamping the grass pieces, the bees, and the flowers around that hive. So it looks like the hive is in the forefront, and then all the grass and the flowers and everything are kind of coming out from behind and around it. So I'm going to start out with these little grass pieces, and there's several different pieces in that stamp set. And I'm taking my time here and just trying to get the lay of the land here and kind of see where I want to put everything. So I know I want like the weeds and the grasses and things that would be out around a beehive to kind of grow up around the base, and then maybe some taller wildflowers around the back that my bees can kind of be buzzing around. So I thought about how I wanted to place everything, and now I'm ready to stamp the grass. And I'm just taking different colors of Distress Oxide greens. So you could use peeled paint or bundled sage, rustic wilderness. It just depends on, the vibrancy of the color. And you can see there, I'm kind of looking at that and deciding, do I really like that color? Do I want to make it darker? And I decided to just move on. So I'm just going to stamp different grasses and move them here and there so it's not the same little stamps right next to one another. Kind of move it around and make sure that all of those blades of grass look different and are going different directions. And I'm going to close the door on my Misty here and pick up several different stamps now that I've kind of decided what color greens I want to use and where I want those sticking out from behind. And then I'm going to ink those up with the oxide ink. A little trick if you're ever using oxide inks on your stamp and the ink seems to puddle just a little bit and you're not getting a good impression, use a little sponge dauber and it kind of smooths everything out. And you can also blend on different colors. So if, let's say, you wanted the base part or the main part of that grass to be a lighter green and you wanted it darker down by the base at the ground where it would be darker, have more shadows, you can kind of sponge on a darker color onto the base of that stamp. And so I'm just getting my now wildflowers all inked up. And what I'm going to do here is use those little finger sponges to put ink directly onto the stamp just in the stem right now. So I'm using green ink just on the stems and leaves. And then I'm going to take a yellow ink, this is fossilized amber, and just do the blooms or the petals and things on the flower. I'm going to stamp that down. And when I look at my Misty, that yellow is beautiful, but it's really not standing out the way that I would like it to be. And so I'm going to add a little bit of worn lipstick and add kind of that orangey tone into those flowers. And then when I open it this time, I like that a lot better. I like how that kind of orangey color deepens that up a little bit and it makes it stand out a little bit more against that craft cardstock. So now I'm going to take each of my little bees and I'm going to stamp those kind of buzzing around those wildflowers up there at the top. I'm going to use a gray oxide ink and then black soot. So first I stamped it in the gray ink. And next I'm going to take another one of those little sponge daubers and I'm going to take, or I don't use a sponge dauber, I take it directly to, and then I'm going to smooth it out with the sponge dauber. So that's what I did. And then take that direct over and you can kind of see the little bit of that gray kind of peeking out. That black soot is not just really, really deep black on there. You can see where that sponge dauber kind of smoothed it out and toned it down. And it just makes it kind of a little bit darker of a charcoal gray. And so now I have my bees kind of buzzing around back there, and I'm going to add one more wildflower, I decided, over on the far right side, kind of peeking out there, growing out from behind that hive. And then again, I'm going to ink that up, make sure I have a really good stamped image, and then I'm ready to peel back my mask. You can see all the grass kind of growing around there. And now I'm going to take and I'm going to color this in with my colored pencils. So I have different colored browns pulled out, and I'm using kind of a medium tone brown to kind of go up along the underside of each of those layers of that woven beehive. And so I've got the darker spots there at the bottom, and then I can kind of do an all over coloring of a lighter tan and just blend that all in. Next, I'm going to do the wooden base, and I'm adding some dark shadows here and there right around the base of that hive, and then right on the underside along where the little platform would be connected to the legs. So I added that, and then take just different browns to blend in and kind of make that look wood tone. It's really easy because those stamps have such detailed and nice lines and details added into the image, so you don't have to do a lot of extra to these images. The next thing I colored were the wildflowers, and I took some kind of dark orange colors. You can see that there. I'm going along and adding some shading here and there along in between those petals, and then finishing off the coloring with kind of a mustard yellow. I'm going to do green centers, add greens to the leaves and to the stems, and the wildflowers were pretty easy to put together. Again, the stamps have wonderful, beautiful detail, so all you have to do is kind of color here and there, and then all your images should be good to go. I added yellow, of course, to my bees and did some really super light gray wings to the bees, and that finished those off. And then I decided I wanted some extra grass around the edges. So I just took a little bit of masking paper just to kind of mask off the areas that I didn't want to cover up with ink there. So I didn't have to cover the whole thing again. I just needed to mask off the areas right around the edges. So it was super easy just to add some more blades of grass here and there. And then I'm just dipping those into my ink pads and then putting those directly onto the cardstock. So next thing I want to do is make this look a little more vintage. Since this is a vintage beehive, I am taking my dirty blending brush. I love to use my dirty brushes, and that means I just don't wash them after every use. I like to keep that ink on there because if you want to add like a really light halo of color around an image, or you just want light shading, if you take your dirty brush with the ink that's just left on there from the last time that you used it, a lot of times you get really great results just by doing it that way and not having to dip it back into your ink pad. I tend to be a little more heavy-handed, and so if I dip it back into the ink pad, I'm going to get it a lot darker than what I intended to do. So that's just an easy little thing, is just to use your dirty blending brushes. And that around the edges is gathered twigs as well. Now I'm going to stamp the hello greeting. I'm stamping that in gathered twigs just to pull in that vintage brown color. Again, because that's a sentiment, I want to make the ink nice and smooth, so I blended the ink out on the stamp with one of those little foam finger daubers. And now I'm ready to put all this onto a card base. So I am adding a little tiny bit of dimension. This is pretty much a one layer card. I'm just going to add just a little bit in the layers. I do add one little piece of craft foam in the back to give that a little bit of dimension, and then I'm going to glue this whole thing down to an orange, kind of a burnt orange piece of cardstock, and that's really going to make those wildflowers and everything pop off of the front. It's going to be a little bit of color back there. Add this to a top folding craft card base. So again, it's going to tie in all that vintage feel and vintage look. And now this card is all put together. I just used our Be Creative liquid adhesive to adhere all my layers, and everything is all ready to go. Now here's an up-close look of my finished card today. I hope you've enjoyed all the products from day one. I hope you'll join me back here tomorrow for lots more new Birthday Bliss products. Make sure you check out all of our social media to see some wonderful inspiration from all of our design team members. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.